everybody. Welcome to the April 2020 episode of the BrownieKnits podcast. I'm your host, Gina, also known as BrownieKnits. And this is my little dog, Lorelei. Sit up a little bit more. There you go. I thought I would hop on to the YouTube channel and upload a video for you guys today. I'm going to go over our May 2020 Gilmore cloth, the free pattern for the Gilmore Cloth Club. If you are just joining and you're interested in knitting those patterns, I'm releasing a free washcloth / dishcloth pattern at the beginning of every month in 2020, and they all are inspired by the show Gilmore Girls. So in this episode, I'll go over talk a little bit about the one for May, about the inspiration, some helpful notes about it, that kind of thing. And I also released a new, also free pattern for an infinity scarf. You guys are being so loving and so kind. Everyone welcomed it so much, and I was overwhelmed. It was unexpected. So I'm going to show that a little bit and talk about it. Just give us all a little break from everything that's going on in the world right now, which is crazy. So I hope all of you are safe and well. And it's just a really tough time now for everyone. So the way I get through tough times is through knitting, reading as well, but a lot of knitting and a lot of pets for this little one. So she is sporting her "my hair is crazy because we've been at stay-at-home lockdown" look right now. Like, she's so fluffy and full. And I did get a grooming kit that just arrived yesterday to try and groom her myself. I did make my husband promise that he would help me with the Dremel part for her nails, because I didn't want to get the clippers. They scare me. So we went with the Dremel. And then she's really actually pretty good about, like, sometimes I will give her little haircuts in between grooms. And she just oftentimes will lay there and kind of, if she's laying on her back while I'm grooming her belly, she'll just lay there and go to sleep. So she's pretty trusting of me. So I'm hope that that might help with the rest of it. We'll see. Right now she's just like glancing out the window. What's going on out there? So anyway, let's get into some knitting. Do you want to lay down? So the cloth for May, so it'll be available in Ravelry and at BrownieKnits.com on May 1st. And the name of this cloth is Kirk's Petal Pig. And why is that? Because, and I know a lot of people didn't like it, but I really liked the additional 4 mini movie episodes of Gilmore Girls that Netflix did. Truth be told, I liked 2 of the 4, but anyway, I was happy to get anything. And one of the things that we learn in the follow-up episodes, the town gets together and they all pitch in and get a pet pig for Lulu and Kirk, so that that will delay any offspring for a little bit longer so that the town can get prepared for that. So, and then we see him chasing Petal around town every now and then. So that was the inspiration for this cloth. And I also at the time thought, oh, it'll be May, it'll be spring in my corner of the world, and I wanted something vibrant and fun and just kind of silly, actually. And I think we could all use a little silly right now in our lives. So here is my little petal pig. So again, this will be named the Kirk's Petal Pig Cloth. So you can find it Ravelry, BrownieKnits.com. And it used 1 skein of Lily Sugar and Cream on the cotton, their worsted base. This one is out of hot pink. And then I also made a second one out of rose pink. I'm partial to the hot pink one, so I'm going to show that one a little bit more. But, and you do use a little bit of black for the eyelashes that you embroider on. You could really, I mean, if you don't have any extra black yarn or thread, you could use brown. I mean, it's a fun little pig. You could really do anything. So the way that this cloth is knitted, you make it in, I believe it's 5 parts. So first you start by making the body, and I'm going to show you the back side so that you can see what I'm talking about as I go. You actually knit this in the round, which is nice, and you start from one end and then work to the other side. It is finished on both sides because you're knitting it in the round, but you're increasing really quickly, no rows in between. Then you do this solid piece of knitting for the fat part of the body, and then you decrease really quickly with no rows between the decreases. And that gives you sort of this like football shape. It's a little bit kind of magical. You then have, like I said, it's finished then on both sides, so you have this double layer. And the nice thing about the double layer is then any finishing and seaming and sewing that we do later on, you can just poke it in between the 2 layers and it's hidden. So that's kind of nice. And I don't remember in the pattern which order I had you make these in, but then you have the tail. And this is a very quick piece to make, and it will do this little curly Q thing because of how I did that. So that's kind of just a fun little addition. And then if we talk about the head and all the features over here. So I'm going to flip Petal upside down, because if you look at the head is actually, this is the cast on down here. And then you shape it along here and shape it down again, and then the bind off ends up being the mouth. The way that this works, because you have this shaping up here, if I fold it back you can see like that's what it actually will look like, that piece. When you make the ears will then fit very nicely along that shaped edge. And you just whip stitch the ears onto the sides of the head. And I thought the cast on looked nicer, more like top of a head, and then I thought the bind off looked more like the opening of a mouth, so that's why he's upside down. The ears are very simple to make, simple shaping with garter stitch, and like I said, you whip stitch them on. And then the snout, because I have it sewn on, it's knitted out of garter. There's some increases and decreases. And then once you seam it on, after you've got it all seamed and stuffed, you give it a cinch with the tails where you seamed it on, and it puffs it up. So as you go along knitting petals pieces, I tell you to leave really long ends for the cast on and bind off tails. The reason I do that is so that when you go to put all these pieces together, you can use those ends to do it without having to cut a separate piece of the thread and then having to weave in the old tails and add in the new and all that stuff. So if you leave those extra long tails at the beginning and end of each piece, you'll have that for seaming. And I tell you very step-by-step, kind of spoon-fed, how to put everything together. Tail's super simple, the body's super simple. The nice thing about the head is when you're putting the head on, you can go up and down along the edges with your tail to put it onto the body. And because you have this double layered body, you can only go through the top layer, the layer closest to the head, and that way you don't see any of it on the back side. And I left a little bit where the head kind of doesn't, I sewed it down through here, but he's got like this floppy ear. I just kind of liked the dimension of it, and it kind of covers the neck is what I used as a guide. After I got all of those on, after I did the body, the tail, the head, the ears I did before I put the head on, I went in and did the snout. The reason that I did put together the snout kind of at the tail end of it, I used all those clipped ends. After you seam it down, you clip the ends so that you don't have huge ends inside, right? I saved all of those, and then I used those to stuff the snout. So if you actually were to feel it, it feels hard because, well, not hard. I mean, it feels stuffed because it has all those tails in there. So you don't need extra stuffing, like, you know, any of the polyfill or anything like that. You can just use the tails that you had from when you were seaming. So it all gets used. And then you can embroider on the eyelashes using the photos in the pattern as a guide. And I like to do it where she has like these long, luxurious eyelashes. I wish I had long eyelashes. The only people in my side of the family who have long eyelashes, my little nephew has the longest eyelashes of any of us. They're beautiful. He could care less that he has long eyelashes. Anyway, so that's how you do all of that. And he comes together, she, pig, comes together very quickly. Even though there are the different pieces, they knit up, you know, the body obviously is the largest, so it takes the longest to knit, but the rest of it knits up very quickly. And the finishing is really kind of fun because a lot of times I don't like the finishing part of projects, but the finishing on this I found really to be enjoyable because you see this little piggy coming to life. Again, this is the hot pink and this is the rose pink. I will say that I found it easier to find the hot pink in stores or online where you could just get one ball. The rose pink I only found online, and this was pre-coronavirus. This was because I designed these months ago. And you had to get at least like two balls of this, I believe, but it's the rose pink. But, you know, I just thought, again, it's one of those where if you like the Gilmore Girls, you would know that it's Kirk's Petal Pig. But if you're not a big Gilmore Girls fan and you just like the pig, you can knit it. I thought it would be great for a little gift if you were putting together like a baby shower gift or, you know, a gift for a child. Like, it would be cute if you maybe did some handmade soaps and then put that together or something like that. So it was fun. I hope you guys enjoy it. Again, that'll be out on May 1st, 2020. And yeah, he was a lot of fun. He, she, pig, was a lot of fun to design and knit. I do have a hat pattern called the Little Piggy. I think it's called Little Piggy hat. Has adult and child sizes in it. And you'll see some of these features like the snout, ears, and tail I think are very similar. But it is a hat. It's a rolled brim hat. And I love that hat. It is a for sale pattern, so it's a purchase, not a free. But that hat cracks me up anytime I think about it because when I originally designed it, I had a coworker of my husband's ordered one for her daughter, maybe even two daughters, I can't remember back then. And so I made those and sent them out, and then she came back and said, can she make one for my husband out of the same color pink, because they wanted to wear them together when he went skiing with his daughters. So his daughter and they both wore matching pink pig hats, so that was pretty funny. I thought that was a good dad. Okay. And if you're looking for something, but this is just a quick recap. This is the 1,000 Yellow Daisies cloth that was released on April 2020 as part of the Gilmore cloth cow. So if you're looking for some brightness, cheerfulness in your life right now, this one is out there as well. Okay, so my intention was starting this month to cover things that weren't just my own designs or creations, But I'm finding that with the state of everything right now, that I am drawn to needing a creative outlet. So, and I'm also been drawn to, I have a lot of people who have birthdays in the spring. So I decided to kind of channel those together and do some knitting design work, and then they kind of serve a double purpose because a lot of them are going to people as gifts. So as part of that, I released, and because of everything going on in the world, I felt like I had intentionally, let me rephrase that. I intended originally to release this pattern that I'm getting ready to show you as a for purchase pattern. But after everything that was going on, I just thought, I'm going to release it for free. That way, if you have been furloughed, you're home, you have a stash of yarn, you can download the pattern, knit it up, and maybe that helps someone on a day when they need it. So that's what I decided to do. So I have released it in Ravelry and BrownieKnits.com. The name of the pattern is Shells and Stripes Infinity Scarf. That might sound a little familiar because I do have a for purchase pattern called Waves and Stripes Infinity Scarf. They have a few similarities between them, but this actually, I think I like the shells one more. And I did this one because I love the beach. I love summer. I love just the stillness of hanging out there. Not sure that's going to happen this year. So I needed some way to get shells and beach life into my life. So here is the shells section. Isn't it pretty? It's so fun. It's very simple lace techniques. These sections, so there are 3 sections that are the shells and 3 sections that are the stripes. For the shells sections, the pattern provides it in both written and charted. So you can decide if you're somebody more comfortable with written instructions, you can follow those. If you're somebody who's more comfortable with charted, you can follow the chart. I'm sort of in between. I like to, when I first start doing a pattern, I like to see it written out. And then after I sort of have it in my head, then I just go from the chart. I don't think that's normal. I think a lot of people are the reverse, but that's how I am. So a couple of things about this pattern. Let me hold it all up so you can kind of see. There you go. So it is an infinity scarf because you start with a provisional cast on, which I used the crochet provisional cast on. There's a link to a site that has a demo of that if you have never done that before. You do that so that at the end of the project, you can unzip that, put it on a live needle, and then you can just Kitchener the 2 ends together and it's seamless. If that scares you and well, first of all, if it scares you, it shouldn't. Like, go for it. You can do it. If you go for it, if it doesn't work out, then you can say you went for it, and then you can go and do what I'm about to say. But it's not that big of a technique. So I think a lot of people are scared of it who don't crochet because you use a crochet hook in it. But really, it's much easier than you might think it is. But anyway, if you don't want to do the provisional cast on, you could just cast on like normal. I'd probably do maybe like a long tail cast on, just with the color that I then tell you to knit with. And then bind off after you've made the whole thing, bind off. And then you could just mattress stitch those 2 ends together. So that's an option if you would prefer to do it that way. The scarf itself, much like the body of the pig, is double layered. So there is technically no right side, wrong side, because it's knitted in the round and you just keep going. Now, I say technically no wrong side because if you look at like the shells section, you don't really see where it joins. But in the stripes section, this I tend to have be the side that I show out, and this not, and you'll see that line right there. It's just where I've changed colors. So when you are working the striped section, so this, first of all, this yarn that I knitted this one out of is Leading Men Fiber Arts Showstopper. This color, the light blue, is Poseidon, and the dark blue is Blue Ink. You need 2 of the Poseidon because you need a little over 900 yards for the main color, and then you need like 250 of the secondary color, the contrast color. When you're working the stripe section, you will carry both yarns up using them as you go. And then once you get to the end of a stripe section and you're getting ready to start the shells, you'll just cut the end for the contrast color and keep going with the main color. One other note is when I blocked this, the upper edge of the shells wants to block up. So it kind of does that for you naturally. I think it's the upper. Now I'm confusing myself. One of them blocks up naturally, the other one doesn't. So when I wet blocked this, so I washed it in the sink and then I wet blocked it on my blocking board, I did pin up these ends so that you get that nice scallop. And I'm going to throw up some photos here of the same scarf, the Shells and Stripes Infinity scarf, and this is it knitted also on the Leading Men Fiber Arts Showstopper base, but the colors here are used. The main color is Bent Neck Lady, and the secondary color, the contrast color, is Raspberry Parfait. I used a US 4 needle for this, but you would want to look at the gauge information in the pattern to make sure that you were getting the gauge that you needed so that you didn't run out of yarn. Yeah, so I hope that you guys enjoy this pattern. It's a lot of fun to make, and even though this looks really complex, once you get going, you start to just kind of automatically do it. At least I did. So I did watch a lot of TV and listen to a lot of podcasts while I knitted these 2 versions of it. So I kept the blue one for myself. The pink and raspberry one went to A Knitter's Life, Christina, for her birthday. But I'm thinking that I need to make a pink one for myself. I really just loved that color combination so much, so I might have to do that. Yeah, and I don't want to show you what else I'm knitting on right now because it's for someone else, and so I'll probably show you that next month at some point. Other than knitting, I've been reading, watching TV, binge listening to podcasts. Like a lot of crafters, I was asked to make a lot of face masks, so I did that for, I made I think around 45 one week, just using stash fabric. I'm not a very skilled seamstress in my opinion, but yeah, I got comfortable with them by the end of it, so that was interesting, and I learned more and remembered more about my machine than I had before. So, and we've been hanging out with Lorelei, who's just loving all these pets and all the attention. So, what are you doing, Goober? Sticking your head back. You want right there? Yeah. Oop, don't push on the microphone. All right, well, I think that's everything that I had to share today. So I hope that you enjoyed a few minutes here and there in this podcast, and that you're all doing well. And I'm on Instagram and Ravelry, and I have a Facebook page, all for BrownieKnits. So feel free to contact me at any of those locations, and I can't wait to see what projects you guys are working on. So from one sleepy Lorelei and I, happy knitting. Bye-bye.